Today, I'm going to have a virtual interview with you and ask you a few questions on behalf of the Stanford students about your experience as a technical marketing manager at Panasonic. It's going to be both about your role. Yeah, excuse me.
I'd be delighted.
Yes. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a few questions about your role and then the company itself, and then some advice. I'd like you to give some advice to the Stanford students who are looking for a similar experience and becoming like you in their future.
Great.
Yeah, so the first question is, what do you work on at Panasonic? What does it mean to be a technical marketing manager, and what is your project?
Oh, that's a great question. So technical marketing manager sounds a little bit confusing perhaps at first because it has both a business identity and a technology identity paired together. But that's exactly what it is. So this job relies on my technical education as well as business acumen, and I try to put both together to kind of be a bridge, both a bridge internally within Panasonic and also a bridge to our customers. And it's kind of a unique position because Panasonic is primarily, well, it was founded in Japan almost 100 years ago and remains to this day still very much a part of the Japanese fabric. But of course, we're spread around the world as well. Most notably, locally, you probably have heard of Tesla, and we supply the storage cells to Tesla. I don't work on that, but I work on related energy storage and power electronics. As such, I have to answer a lot of technical questions to the customers and bring back their questions to our folks and both bridge, as I said, a technology and business kind of a communications line, as well as cross-cultural. So it keeps me very busy. Some of the additional activities involve my research in mostly the business domain. So to get business going, you need to understand things like value proposition. Why should somebody want to listen to you or care about your products or services? You should also understand local, state, and federal, and maybe even international regulations and standards which the products have to meet. So constantly have an eye on the field, both business who are our competitors, who can we cooperate with as partners, what are the trends, what things do people care about, both as customers and people at large, people in government, what does everybody care about? And we try to work that all together. So it sounds a bit mixed, but this is real life and this is what real life offers. So you have to just go with the flow.
That's awesome. Yeah, to get a better sense of, to get a more detailed perspective on your role, could you tell me what a typical day would look like? Perhaps what's on your calendar for the rest of today?
Sure. I have to speak with one of my colleagues who's now located in our Texas office. He's originally from Mexico. We do have a manufacturing facility in Mexico, and he brings to me something that a technology he wishes me to look at. It's not my primary function, but once again, being conversant in technology, trying to understand how this fits into the energy play, I might introduce this technology to my colleagues in the venture group here. So they behave like a venture capitalist function with that function, but they're inside of our corporation. So they operate a little bit different than most Silicon Valley VCs. If it works, I take my hands off. I've made the introduction. I go back to my work, which it involves making presentations for introducing our new technology to various customers in power electronics area. So I have to be able to understand circuits and systems and try to figure out how everything fits together with what the customer might need. And I'll send out that presentation today and get to work on some of the other activities that we have, looking at new markets and new companies and seeing how we can sell our products to them. Panasonic is divided into 4 companies. The one company I'm working for is the Automotive and Industrial Systems Company, and we provide roughly 1/3 of the revenue to Panasonic Corporation. And the types of things that we sell include automotive goods, so infotainment systems, for example, and switches and connectors that you'll find in various automobiles. You'd recognize things quite readily if I started to mention those. We also have the industrial side, which I'm more affiliated with, and we sell components, passive components, inductors, capacitors, resistors, active components such as power, compound semiconductors, transistorized switches. We sell relays, and of course the whole suite of battery electrical energy storage goods. So it keeps us very busy.
Awesome. So you are studying a lot of the trends of the energy industry and the technology that are new. If a student would like to join the energy industry and become like a competitive candidate, what kind of technology would you recommend this students? And how can they just join this current of the energy industry?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I think I was helped when I was an undergraduate at MIT by taking a general course in energy. And I think you'll find such courses at many other universities, Stanford, Berkeley, all around the United States. So I would recommend starting there, take a general course in energy, see if you like it or not. If you're still interested after that, learning about wind farms and solar and fuel cells and heat pumps and everything else and Carnot cycles and whatever, if that still interests you, then you should go forwards. Another thing you should understand is that this area of energy is intimately linked to global climate change and making a smaller carbon footprint. So when you approach a job, it's a bit about looking what's in your heart. Do you care about the environment? If you do, then you look to see where you can fit in and help. Lots of places will need your help. You cannot get by or go very far anyway without some additional training. I would say at least generalized business skills. So you have to understand something called value chain and also value proposition. What is it that you're doing? Why should the customer be interested in you? Decide whether you want to be more on the product side of things, the hardware, more on the service or software side of things, and then tune your technical training for that. For the hardware side, I can speak more to that. You really have to understand all of your fundamentals. Very trivial to say, but there are a lot of people that will get hung up initially on concepts such as power, energy, the integral of power over time is energy, current and charge is similar type of thing. So if you get fluent in speaking that way, then you're ready to understand how people can use energy to power their lives. There are a lot of other things that affect what we do: regulations, incentives from governments, certifications from industry consortia, being members of an appropriate organization. Even as a student, you could do something like, if you're in a mechanical space, join the Society for Mechanical of Engineers. If you're in material science, you can join ASM or Electrochemical Society or many other organizations, Materials Research Society. If you're in EE, you can join IEEE as a student member. So get started early. You'll find a torrent of state-of-the-art information coming from those sources, and it will help guide you as to what's hot and what's not. And you have to constantly keep vigil because these things change all the time. What once fell out of disfavor for a little while, well, maybe there was a breakthrough technology that's reviving that again. So those are some of the things I would say to someone studying now how to get into this field.
Thank you for the advice. As for your experience, especially here at Stanford, was there something that you did or an activity, project you engaged in that may have led you to the position you're in now?
Well, yeah, I think I was in material science. My undergraduate at MIT was in electrical engineering. My PhD was in material science and engineering. there aren't too many people that take that path. I did. And I think it's really fortunately come together here at Panasonic because in the company that I work for under the corporation, the job heavily relies on both of those fields. As a student, the basics of material science, working my way up, I took a couple classes in electrochemistry. I haven't checked lately. I don't know if they're still offered through material science or another department, but that would be good. And as I mentioned, a generalized course in energy can come from any department, double E, Mech E, I don't know, maybe even some of the other departments I haven't touched on, Aero and Astro perhaps. So, check into those and see if they're of interest to you. There's other classes that might be more interesting to someone else. Rotating machinery for someone that likes wind power, from electrical engineering and mechanical engineering standpoint, fuel cells from material science, chemistry, perhaps even mechanical engineering. Those types of things might be interesting to someone that likes fuel cells. You really have to pick something and go with it, even though that might not be the last thing you study, because the alternative is to just spin your wheels and not latch on to anything. So go for something, try to understand how it works and how it fits into society. And if it later turns out you don't like it anymore, that's fine too, but you won't know your second step unless you take your first one.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much for that. Now we talked about the energy industry abroad, and then
yes, I just want to mention I've totally left out solar. So of course I worked in the semiconductor industry in my past and have studied semiconductors at Stanford, and the solar industry is very interesting. Panasonic just announced a partnership with Tesla / Solar City, so we're quite excited about that. That's another area for people to look into.
yeah, speaking of solar, did you do something related to solar or automotive here at Stanford?
Well, I worked on a type of material system called diamond thin films. Wasn't exactly directly related, but a lot of people are using compound semiconductors today, so things other than silicon. And you kind of have to keep aware of what new technologies are coming. An area of material science that seems to be hot right now is a study of a type of crystal called a perovskite. So check and see what's happening. At the same time that these new technologies are coming, one of the challenges is that you have to make money at what you do. You have to do it safely with quality, have everything repeatable, and be able to scale to mass production. So those are some of the challenges that are met with any of these technologies.
Awesome. So we talked about the broad energy industry and also automotive industry in it. Going even deeper into Panasonic itself, how would you describe the culture of Panasonic? How is it different from other companies or different or similar to Stanford University? What are some opportunities that you found at Panasonic that were not available at Stanford, or that allowed you to practice your skills or grow in a way that was different from what Stanford offered you?
Well, I had the fortunate experience of working for a startup that was with carbon nanotube technology in the past. And probably one of the best parts of the learning experience was learning about business and what is a value proposition and why should someone care. That extends to investors, it extends to you yourself at your company and why you're doing what you're doing, and it extends to your customers. So really try to understand that the world presently operates, at least most of the world we touch, with capitalism, which is exchanging money for something of value. So you really got to get that down. That didn't come from any of my training really at Stanford, except that of course you try to justify the work you're doing. I think one thing I would like to see change a bit is that all engineering students should take one generalized business class as part of a requirement. Same with science students. So it doesn't really matter whether you enter industry, you enter academia, or you work for the government. You really have to understand what a value proposition is, why what you're doing should matter to someone else. And a finer shade of meaning in that is trying to put yourself into the other person's shoes. You may think something's valuable, but then you have to look at it from somebody else's perspective. So that's something that I think I really learned outside of Stanford. Um, Panasonic is, getting back to your original question, how would I describe the culture of Panasonic? Panasonic is known for making really high quality products, doing the same thing consistently over and over again. If you as students have been involved with research at Stanford, that's a bit different. You're trying to do something really great one time, perhaps for the first time. So that's different than doing the same thing over and over and over again consistently. You can recognize that the work that I described in this scenario at Stanford is a risk-taking scenario. You're doing new things, you don't mind failing. In fact, you should hurry up and fail more often. You'll learn more quickly. In industry, sometimes you have to keep things the same because to change and make a mistake might cost a lot of business. So Panasonic both does things very steadily over the years and tries to maintain the high quality standards and the safety standards and repeatability standards that we are known for. And yet we also have to branch out and take risks. And that's usually like a quantum jump. It's a balance of both of those worlds. And you can't really do one or the other. You have to do both together. So that's kind of the culture we have here, both doing the things steadily and also trying to size up risk and seeing what new things we can do and do well.
Thank you very much. Now, as for the last question, I'd like to just leave it open to you. If you have any advice to give for Stanford students who are out there going after the recruiting process for the energy industry, but maybe for even more broadly, just any engineering, technology industry, and startups industry for that reason, would you give them advice on how to search for the jobs in the first place? How do they know which place they should look for and whether a place they are searching for is right for them? And how do they appear as a strong candidate?
Oh, that's very good. So to appear as a strong candidate, you always have to, as I said earlier, understand the basics and try to understand them well. No one can ever expect you to learn everything. In fact, that's a lifelong pursuit. And if you get the basics down, like I was mentioning, understand how you can get energy from power, power from energy, current from charge, charge from current, how are voltage and current related when you have a particular power. That seems very trivial. You probably did that in high school physics, but really get it down well. And you can stress to the employer, I understand the basics very well. And then say, moreover, I've gone and I've done this research which is touching on something that you're doing. So to figure out, that would be the ideal case. If you've done research and preparation in an area that doesn't quite match, then you have to express how you can learn new things. You've demonstrated this before, that you can learn new things, and that you're very hungry and eager to learn more about what this company is doing and make a contribution. So you got to figure out what their contribution is. Academia, they have to publish paper. Industrial lab, they have to do research and publish about it, or write reports, or go to conferences. If it's in industry, you have to help contribute to sales, either a product or a service, or maybe a combination of the two. So those are the types of things that you need to say, I'm ready. I bring with me a strong foundation and a desire to learn more and contribute. And you have to know what the person wants to hear, what kind of thing they do, so that you can say, I will contribute, like to contribute to that which you do. So that's it in terms of how you present yourself. In terms of preparation, I think it goes back to getting involved as a student with an organization that you think you might want to follow. So for example, energy storage, you could look into CalCharge, CalCharge, and figure out what they're doing with energy storage. There are all kinds of talks and symposia at Stanford that go on. They may be held at SLAC. They may be held in one of the departments, engineering departments. You can check out the Graduate School of Business, even though it's for graduates. They might let you in there. They might like to guide you a little bit. So those are all resources at your disposal. And feel good about reaching out to people you don't know. They probably would love to talk to you.
Thank you so much for the advice and for your time today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I enjoyed it.
Me too.
Should I show the picture on the other?
Yeah, now would be the excellent time.
Okay, let's see if I can switch the camera.
And also give us a little bit of context.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things I do in my spare time is to help the Stanford solar car. And let me see if I can angle it a little bit better. So I've been working with Stanford Solar Car for probably last 3 race cycles, including this one. And I help to source the lithium-ion cells. So it's a difficult task, in part because we need to make sure that the students use our cells in the most safe manner, yet the students operate autonomously. So we convey information to them. They may work with us to help try to understand our cells better, and they have been able to move forwards. So Panasonic, unfortunately, and feel badly about this, but we cannot help all universities. I think one of the reasons we're helping Stanford is close affiliation with the California Bay Area in terms of producing graduates that go on to help local companies that use our cells, lithium-ion cells. So that's part of what I do. Again, I have to do that in my spare time because it's not part of my job function, but delighted to help if I can.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time, Paul.
Okay, you're very welcome. I enjoyed this.
Have a great day.
You too, Junwan.